Welcome to Learn English Unleashed. Have you ever understood every single English word, but still couldn't reply naturally? Like someone says, "Hey, what's up?" And your mind goes completely blank, even though you know English? Let me ask you something. Why does this happen? You study grammar, you learn vocabulary, but when a real American or British person talks to you, it feels like a completely different language. And here's the funny part. Most English learners think natives speak difficult English. But the truth is shocking. They actually speak simpler English than textbooks. Just faster, more emotional, and more connected. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Not theory, not classroom English, but real-life English that people actually use in America and the UK every single day. And trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll think, wait, I already knew English, I was just using it wrong. But let's start with something interesting. Why do you understand English in movies, but freeze in real conversations? That's where things get really interesting. Section 1. The big problem. Let me tell you a quick story. Imagine this. You're sitting in a cafe in London or maybe a Starbucks in New York. You hear two friends talking next to you. One says, "I'm kinda down to grab something later if you're free." And you think, kinda down? Grab something? You understood every word, but the meaning feels blurry. Now tell me honestly, what would you do in that moment? Would you reply confidently or just smile and stay silent? Be honest. Most learners stay silent. And here's the painful part. It's not because you don't know English, it's because nobody taught you how English is actually spoken in real life. Now here's another situation. You go to a restaurant. The waiter says, "You guys ready to order or still looking?" And you learned in school, "I would like to see the menu, please." But real life? People don't talk like that all the time, so you hesitate. And while you hesitate, the moment passes, and you feel that small frustration inside. I know English. Why can't I speak it? Have you ever felt that? Because if yes, you're not alone. Let's go deeper. The real problem. Most learners don't see. Most English learners focus on perfect grammar, long sentences, formal vocabulary. But native speakers, they focus on speed emotion, short expressions, shared understanding. Let me show you something strange. A textbook might teach you, "I am going to go to the store." But a native speaker says, "I'm gonna grab something real quick." Same meaning, completely different feeling. Now think, if your brain is trained only on textbook English, how will you understand casual English? That's the real gap. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Mini story. The confusion moment. A student once told me he went to the US for the first time. He entered a gym. A guy looked at him and said, "What's good, man?" The student panicked. He literally thought, "What is good? Food? Situation? Question?" He just smiled awkwardly and walked away. Later he found out. It's just a casual greeting, like, "Hey, how are you?" Now tell me, how would you feel in that moment? Confused? Embarrassed? or just surprised. This is exactly what happens when you learn English only from books. But wait, there's something deeper here. The hidden truth. Native English is not about words. It's about patterns. Let me explain. When someone says, "I'm kind of tired," they are not just giving information, they are sharing a feeling. When someone says, "I'm down for it," they are not talking about direction. They are saying, "Yes, I agree." But most learners translate word by word, and that's where everything breaks. Now here's a question for you. Have you ever translated English in your head before speaking? Be honest, because that one habit is silently blocking your fluency. And now things get interesting. So now you understand the real problem. It's not English difficulty. It's real-life usage versus textbook English. But here's the big question. How do native speakers actually build these phrases so naturally? Do they memorize them? Do they study grammar rules? Or is there something completely different going on? Let's find out. Because in the next section, I'm going to show you something most English teachers never explain. And once you understand it, your English will start feeling completely different. Stay with me, because this is where everything starts to change. The simple solution. Welcome back. And now things are about to get really interesting because in this part I'm going to show you something most English learners never realize. And once you understand it, your brain will start recognizing real English much faster than before. Let me ask you something first. Have you ever noticed that native speakers don't really build sentences like you do? You might think they are carefully choosing grammar, tense, structure. But in reality, they are not constructing English word by word. They are pulling ready-made chunks from memory without even thinking about it. And this is the secret that changes everything. Think about when someone says, "I'm gonna head out." They are not creating that sentence in real time. It already exists as a complete pattern in their mind. Or when someone says, "No worries," they are not thinking about grammar rules. It's just a fixed expression tied to a feeling. Now pause for a second and think. Are you learning English in chunks like this? Or are you still translating word by word in your head? Now let me show you something simple but powerful. If someone asks you, "Do you want to go?" a textbook learner might respond slowly like, "Yes, I want to go with you." But a native speaker will say, "Yeah, I'm in," or "Sure, let's go." Do you feel the difference? One sounds heavy, slow, and formal. The other feels natural, fast, alive. And here's the surprising part. Both are correct English, but only one matches real-life conversation. So the question becomes, why do learners struggle? It's because your brain is trained for accuracy, not speed. But native speakers, they prioritize flow, not perfection. Let me give you another example. Imagine someone says, "I'll catch you later." Now, if you translate that word by word, it makes no logical sense. Catch you, like physically catch you. But in real-life English, it simply means see you later. And this is where learners get stuck. They try to decode English like a math problem instead of understanding it as a living language. Now, I want you to do something with me. Just for a second. Repeat after me slowly. I'm in. Again. I'm in. Good. Now say, "No worries." Perfect. Now say, "I'll catch you later." Amazing. Now let me tell you something interesting. You didn't just learn words, you learned emotional shortcuts. That's what native English really is. Shortcuts of meaning. And once your brain starts storing these shortcuts, everything becomes easier. Conversations become faster, and you stop translating in your head. But wait, here's something most learners never notice. Native speakers reuse the same 50 to 100 expressions all the time in daily life. Yes, just 50 to 100. They don't use advanced grammar. They reuse familiar patterns in different emotional situations. Let me show you a real-life situation. Imagine you are in a coffee shop in New York. You say, "Can I get a coffee, please?" And the barista replies, "Sure, what size you thinking?" Now, notice something important. What size you thinking is not perfect grammar, but it is natural spoken English. In textbooks, it should be, "What size are you thinking of?" But natives simplify it because speed matters more than structure. And here's where things get even more interesting. The more casual the situation, the more broken the grammar becomes. But the more natural the communication feels. So if you are still trying to speak perfect grammar in fast conversations, you will always feel one step behind. Now let me ask you something. What do you think is more important in real conversation? Perfect grammar or smooth flow? Think about it honestly, because native speakers will always forgive grammar mistakes, but they will struggle to understand unnatural rhythm. That's why you might say a perfect sentence and still get a confused reaction, while someone else says a simple broken sentence and gets instant understanding. That's the hidden truth of English communication. And now, here's your first real breakthrough insight. Stop thinking in sentences. Start thinking in situations. For example, instead of memorizing, "I am going to the store," learn the situation "going out casually" and attach phrases like, "I'm gonna grab something" or "I'll be right back." When you train your brain this way, English stops feeling like a subject and starts feeling like a reflex. And that's when fluency begins. But here's the twist. Even if you understand this, you might still struggle in real conversations because knowing patterns is not enough. You need to see how natives actually use them in real speed, in real emotion, in real chaos. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. Because once you hear real-life English in action, you will realize something shocking. You already knew more than you thought. But you were never taught how to listen properly. And trust me, in the next section when we break down real conversations, you might even laugh at how simple English actually is in real life. But also realize why it felt so difficult before. Stay with me, because now, things are about to get real. Now let's move into something really interesting. Because everything we talked about before starts to make sense only when you actually hear how native speakers talk in real-life situations. And I want you to imagine something with me right now. You are not in a classroom. You are not studying from a book. You are standing in a real street in America or the UK. People are walking fast, cars are moving, and conversations are happening everywhere around you. And suddenly, you hear two friends talking, and one of them says, "Yo, I'm just gonna dip real quick. I'll be back in a sec." Now pause for a moment. What did you hear? If you translate it word by word, it sounds confusing. Dip? Like dip in sauce? Real quick? In a sec? But in real English, it simply means, I'm leaving for a short time. I'll come back soon. And this is where learners get shocked, because real English is not built like textbook English. It's built like emotion, speed, and habit. Now let me take you into another situation. Imagine you're in a shopping mall in London. You walk into a store and ask, "Do you have this in another size?" And the worker replies, "Yeah, we might. Let me check in the back real quick." Now notice something important here. Lemme is not proper grammar. It's let me. In the back is casual. Real quick is informal. But the entire sentence is perfectly natural. And here's the surprising part. If you try to respond too formally in this situation, you will actually sound unnatural. For example, saying, "Yes, I would like you to check it for me in the storage area," sounds robotic, almost like a machine. But saying, "Oh, okay, thanks," fits perfectly. So the question becomes, why does simple English sound more natural than correct English? That's where native flow comes in. Let me give you another real-life moment. Imagine you are at a restaurant in the US. The waiter comes and says, "You still working on that or you all good?" Now think about this. "You still working on that?" is not full grammar. It's a shortened, relaxed way of asking if you're finished eating. And "you all good" simply means, "Are you done?" or "Do you need anything else?" But here's what happens to learners. They expect full sentences like, "Are you still eating your food?" So when they hear the real version, their brain pauses for a second, and that pause fluency. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like English speakers talk too fast? Or maybe you understand words but still miss the meaning? Be honest, because this is extremely common. And the truth is, they are not speaking fast English. They are speaking shortened English. Big difference. It's like compression, like taking a long sentence and shrinking it into a quick expression that carries the same meaning. Now here's a very important insight. Listen carefully. Native speakers don't always speak in complete grammar structures. They speak in meaning chunks. For example, instead of saying, "I am going to leave now," they say, "I gotta go." Instead of "I will see you later," they say, "See you later," or even just later. Instead of "I do not know," they say "no idea" or "don't know." Now, if you compare these side by side, one thing becomes very clear. Spoken English is about speed and emotion, not completeness. But wait. Here's where things get even more interesting. Let's say you're in a casual workplace conversation in America. Someone says, "Hey, can you send me that file when you get a chance?" Now this phrase, "when you get a chance," is extremely common, and it doesn't mean whenever you want in life. It simply means when you are free. But learners often misunderstand it because they translate it literally. And that creates confusion in real-time conversations. Now I want you to imagine something. What if you started recognizing these patterns instantly, without translating, without thinking, just reacting naturally? That is exactly what fluency feels like. It's not knowing more words. It's recognizing patterns faster. And here's the surprising truth. Most native speakers don't even realize they are using these expressions. because they learned them naturally as kids, through listening, not studying. That's why they sound effortless. Now let me show you something really powerful. Compare these two versions. Textbook English. I am not sure about that. I will think about it and inform you later. Natural English. I'm not sure. I'll think about it. Did you feel the difference? Same meaning, but completely different energy. And now, things get even more interesting. Because in the next section, we're going to break down how native speakers sound more confident even when their English is actually simpler. And you might realize that fluency is not about complexity at all. Stay with me, because this is where your English starts sounding real. Fluency boosters. Now we're getting into something really powerful, because at this stage you already understand that real English is not about perfect grammar or long sentences. It's about natural flow, shortcuts, and emotional meaning. But here's the question. Why do some learners know a lot of English, yet still don't sound natural when they speak? Have you ever met someone like that? Or maybe even felt it yourself? They know words, they know grammar, but something still feels off when they talk. And the surprising answer is this. It's not what they say, it's how they say it. And now things get interesting. Let me show you something most learners never notice. Native speakers don't just speak with words, they speak with rhythm. Think about this sentence. I don't know. In textbooks, it's flat, simple, neutral. But in real life, it can change completely depending on tone. It can sound confident. I don't know. It can sound unsure. I don't know. It can even sound emotional. I don't know. Same meaning, different feeling. And here's the secret. English is not only language, it's music. If your rhythm is wrong, even correct sentences can sound unnatural. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how native speakers shorten everything when they are relaxed? Like, going to becomes gonna, want to becomes wanna, kind of becomes kinda, and out of becomes outa. And here's the surprising part. They don't do this because they are lazy. They do it because their mouth naturally wants to move faster than full grammar allows. It's efficiency, it's flow, it's habit. But wait, here's something even more interesting. Natives don't consciously choose these forms. They don't think, now I will shorten this sentence. It just comes out automatically because they've heard it millions of times. So the real question becomes, how do you build that same automatic system? And the answer is simple but powerful. Repetition in real context, not memorization. Let me give you a real-life example. Imagine two friends meeting in a street in New York. One says, "Yo, what's up?" The other replies, "Not much, just heading out." Now notice something. This conversation has no grammar complexity, no advanced vocabulary, but it feels completely natural. Why? Because it's built on familiar patterns, not individual words. Now let me challenge you for a second. Say this out loud. What's up? Good. Now say, not much. Perfect. Now say, I'm heading out. Excellent. Now here's the important part. You just practiced real spoken English, not textbook English. And if you repeat this kind of practice regularly, your brain starts switching from translation mode to reaction mode. Now listen carefully. This is where many learners get confused. They think fluency means speaking fast. But fluency is not speed. Fluency is smoothness. You can speak slowly and still sound fluent if your phrases are natural. And you can speak fast and still sound unnatural if your structure is wrong. That's why some people sound confident even with simple English. Let's look at another example. Imagine someone at work says, "Can you send that over when you get a chance?" A learner might pause and think about grammar, but a fluent speaker simply understands the meaning instantly. Send it when free. No translation, just meaning recognition. That's fluency. And here's a big secret most teachers never explain. Native speakers don't try to be perfect. They try to be understood quickly. That's why they prioritize clarity over correctness. And that's why "I'm gonna head out" works better in conversation than "I am going to depart now." But wait, there's something deeper here. Because even if you understand all this, you might still make some very common mistakes that instantly make your English sound non-native. And most learners don't even realize they are doing it. And in the next section, I'm going to show you those mistakes in real situations, so you can finally hear what native speakers actually hear when you speak. Stay with me, because this is where things get really eye-opening.